Mhm. Hi, good morning. Welcome back to ITOM Batch 2, Day 23. So how are you doing, Arati, today?
Good.
Good to hear. Thank you. So before proceeding to next session, any doubts, any questions from the last sessions which where we discussed about the identification rules, class and all?
No, not at this time.
Okay, let me share screen again and let's get started. Okay, so let me go to the CI class manager. So let me rephrase what we have discussed in the last class. So we have discussed about the custom class, how you can build or how we can create the custom identification rule. But as I mentioned, we have to be make sure that when we are creating identification rules, we have to be ensure what will be the unique value or the unique attribute which we can use in identification, right? So let's get this open and we'll start.
So last time we had stopped where there were some identification rules on a different table, remember?
Yes, right.
So we
So
were
that
going to talk a little bit about that.
right. So I'm coming to that point only, right? Windows Server. Right. So we are talking about the related entries, right? Where that particular identification rules configured for related entries as well, right? So let me open one Windows Server.
Was it the related entries or there were some uh, we can we can also set the identification rules on a separate
Mhm.
table, right? Or was that related entries? I can't remember now when we looked at it.
Right. Let me tell you about that basically. What was that? That's why I'm opening the Windows Server table just to showcase you. There is no data in the related entries. Let me open this. Oh, okay. Let's take an example of this one basically, right? So what was the related entries basically? Related entries, which is part of that particular server, right? So if I go with that, first of all, software installation, right? So where that will come? That will come here in software installation, right? If I open this one in a new window, any software which is related to this particular server will be created here with the display name, publisher, version, discovery model, right? If I remove, let me do with all, right? Now you can see. So we have lots of software installed on that particular machine. Let me show group matching. So 27 softwares, we have software informations, but definitely we don't want to be flood that particular CMDB as SAM SW install software table as well, right? We don't want to be create multiple records here, right? So to overcome that particular issue related to that particular CI, we have related entries identification rule as well, which is running on display and version. So example, if when we are running this discovery on that particular CI, and if we found there is already one software installed which is FileNet FM desktop and the version is 2015 and which is already have a relationship with this particular CI, so we will not going to be create new record, right? Matching these particular informations, display name plus version. If it is already there, then we are not going to be update that one. If it is not, then definitely we'll create a new record with that name, might be version will be changed, right? So we will update a new record here, right? Another record will be going to be absent or non-operational for that particular one. So that must be required to be update or maintain our related entries, or related content or related tables, which is part of that main table, right? So when we have Windows Server is the main table, where we are referring or ensuring that particular content or related entries which is part of it, it should be correct or up to date, right? So like it's for software installation, software instance, right? Printer instance, printer, it's not might be part of basically Windows Server, but it should be part of the printer table, right? Bridge port on port table, that will be part of network tables. External system metadata, this is also part of it. OT is related to operational technology assets, right? Subnet to routers is related to router table. This is again related to the network table, right? So why we have put it all rules here? Again, why? Because we are exposing our hardware table, right? So whatever part of hardware table, whatever class is part of hardware table, we are exposing and try to overcome the deduplications things here, and that's why we are using the different class, right? As I mentioned already, if I go to replace this one and I'm going to use the dependent one, and let me save this. Okay, now you can see my related entries is vanished. Identification entries is also vanished. Now it just like we are going to be create a custom class, and we can put our entries and our related entries based on us if we want to making any relationships with any different table and populating in our CMDB or in our that particular class in the related entries as well. Getting my point?
Yes.
So that's why we have to be little bit ensure while we are doing creating identification rule for any CI.
Okay. Can you again, I got it. I got the related entries. Can you again explain, how, like for the identification rules, if you scroll down a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
can you explain to me again, when you're looking, see the first two of our hardware table, how will it look for the serial number? Is it similar to the related entries, like the third identification rule? It's looking at the serial number table.
Yes, right. So as I mentioned, like here, if I open this particular server, so it's this particular server is also part of my hardware table. Let me showcase in different way. One moment. Okay, let me open this. Let me go here. CMDB underscore CI underscore hardware dot list. Let me search this server. One moment, this. Now I'm in hardware table, right? But still I'm able to search that particular CI. Why? Because hardware table is my parent table and Windows Server and couple of other tables or classes is my that is child table. If let's take an example, if you are going to be task table, right? You are able to search for all incidents
Yeah, yeah,
because
I got that. Yes,
right.
yes.
So the same way, it's a hardware table. Now, if we are opening that record, it will be open in the Windows Server table, right? So here, if we are when we are populating the serial number, we are populating the display name. Oh, sorry. In the serial number, we are populating serial number valid and serial number type. That will be the same as a related list only. But here we what we are doing, we are trying to match out the both things, not only the serial number, because the serial number, type and other things will be managed in the serial number table, right?
Mhm.
So we are trying to populate and we are using the both attribute to match, and then we are going to be create a new record. So that's why we have put it serial number and serial number type. It's again, it's a lookup. Basically, it's a related
Right.
type. Basically,
So
we
if the
can say
serial number and the serial number type does not exist, then it will create a record in the Windows server.
server.
Got
Exactly. And
And then
whenever
also
that
in serial number and serial number type, also in the serial number table.
right, and whenever that particular things will be matched,
Uh-huh.
automatically the identification will stop there and will go for create or update the
Right,
CL.
right.
Right. And if it is not found, like, might be that data might be not linked with the serial number table, or the type is not there, or serial number is only there, right? So it will move to there and it will check the serial number, and that serial number again available on here, where it is this one, right? So it will check that serial number only, because
Mm.
that's it, because here it can be possibility in serial number table we have different serial number for different type like BIOS, chassis and others, right? The same way if that not matching, it will check for that serial number only which is available in this on the table itself.
Ajay, now you have got six identification rules, right, for this particular
Mhm.
CI. So it will go one after the other until it reaches the last network adapter. And then if it does not find any match on this, then it will create a new CI, correct?
Definitely, definitely.
Okay,
And if
got
it is matching the CI, definitely it will going to be
update.
populate or update that existing CI. But the priority is also required here. If you see the priority, that will running on the priority basis only.
So how does the priority come into the picture?
We can define that one. Let's take an example. If
No,
I
no, but
create
what is the importance of priority? That's my question.
priority is which identifier entries you want to be trigger on the first,
First one, okay. So the
right? So
lower the
that's why.
priority, that is the first one that will work.
Yes, right. So 71.5 is triggered on the first place, 91 triggered on the second place, and so on.
Right. Okay. Got it.
Okay.
Mhm.
So this is about identification section, and we have inclusion rules as well. Right. So if we want to be if we want to put some inclusion rule as well, we can also create that particular one. Like if for any particular CI or any approval group, if we don't want to be match or if we don't want to be update that particular record, we can also create that one. Right. So if let's take an example, if I put approval group is, let me see what is there, an approval group, because it's reference table. Let me take something different example. Let's take an example. Asset tag is ABC123. Right. So if we want to be include that particular CI, we can also add that particular inclusion rule. So what does that mean? Narrow the scope of the CI that are included in identification process. Only one inclusion rule is allowed per CI identifier. Right, so we can include that particular one. But you know what, I have not seen that we are using inclusion rules basically, but main is identifier entries and related entries that must be there. And as I mentioned, you know we can do the best place to do from that CI class manager, but as already mentioned, we can also go here and we can type identifier entries. We can see here as well CI identifiers. So that is
Mhm.
also available here. We can also do from here as well, right? So the next thing here, once we are able to configure the identification, then comes a reconciliation rule. So let's go with the dependent relationships. So out of the box, that is the dependent relationships. If we override that relationships, if we are going for a custom class and something, again, we can override the dependencies as per our requirement, as per our understanding, right? So whatever the relationships you want to be, whatever the target you want to be, like this is my class. Let's take an example. I'm going to be use this, and I'm going to be use vCenter or virtual machine, right? Hyper-V down virtual machine instance, right? So I can create.
So what does this do?
It basically we have, let me showcase you, right? So we have out of the box relationships, which is populated by ServiceNow, right?
Uh-huh.
But we feel that we don't want to be. We want our relationships to be hosted or our relationships to be showcases, right? So in that case, we can create more dependent relationships,
Okay.
right? To identify the dependency I. So here it's my Windows server, but it dependent on virtual machine instance. Because if my virtual machine instance will not be there, example, because if we are going to be Discover vCenter, and if my virtual machine instance will not be there, that will be showcase, right? That CI is not complete discovered.
Mm-hmm.
right? So that's why that is required in dependent relationships,
Okay.
right? Next is reconciliation rule, which is something most important while we are have we when we have more than one data source to populate the same table. So let's take an example. We have SCCM. Do you know SCCM? What SCCM do basically? First of all,
Is it a, it's not an event management tool, is it?
yes, it's not an event management. It's a SCCM is system configuration. System configuration. Let me see. I also forget about that SCCM. It's system, Microsoft system, central configuration manager, right? So basically, what is he do that particular tool? This is basically agent based tool, first of all, right? So let's take an example. If I install in your laptop that particular exe of SCCM, it will it will collect couple of information from your laptop and push to SCCM database. Okay, and we can integrate with SCCM and populate the data in ServiceNow. We have out of the box service graph connector available for SCCM, right? But basically where that it will use in the IT organizations, it will use mostly for Windows type of devices. So it will work for Windows Server or it will work for laptop or desktop which have Windows OS running on it, right? But most of the organization using for laptop or desktop to collect their data. First, second thing, if I hope you are using your corporate laptop or office laptop, you see couple of times ki that particular patch is going to be update, you need to take a restart, or IT team is something with that type of notifications you are receiving on your desktop, right? So we can update any existing application from that particular tool, or we can update any existing relationships as well, right? If we want to be update any existing software or application in a laptop, we can do that. We can also install any Windows patching which is coming or released by the Microsoft, right? Or if we want to take a remote of your laptop, we can also take it from SCCM. That is some other benefits of it, right? But when we are getting data from two different sources, one is Windows Discovery, which we are using, and second is SCCM, right? So how we are going to be ensure which attribute should update by which data source? That is reconciliation. Basically, what we are doing here, we are just going to be reconcile for a main CI where we can ensure that my CI attribute is up to date. So let's take an example here. We have a discovery running from ServiceNow. We are able to populate each and attribute and we trust the discovery data is correct. But as you know, from the discovery, we cannot populate assign to, right? Because that is not discovered by ServiceNow, right? As you know, like we cannot update the application owner or system owner or different attribute like yeah. So assigned to application owner, system owner, we are not able to update from discovery. Then we have a different data source, SCCM. Assigned to is available there, and application is also available there. But when we are running our SCCM out of the box service graph connector, if we not put a reconciliation rule, it will definitely override the existing attribute which is discovered by ServiceNow. So we
Got
have to be reconcile the data from two sources. So the at fixed attribute is going to be updated by them. So let's take an example. I am here. I just need to put that source is disk service now. Okay. And I just put priority of 100. So that will be my 100 first priority. I just need to be like, select whatever the attribute I'm just selecting. I just select these things, right? I just add it. Let me remove assign and assign to from here. Just for sake. Okay, yeah. Let me save this. Next, if we want to be put any specific condition, like operational status. is operational only. So when your operational status is operational for those particular table, that will going to be update or select these attribute to be by disk service now discovery, right? Let me save this. Now we have, as I mentioned, we have one more data source, which is SCCM. SCCM is not there in the list. Okay, let me use some different thing. We can create that one, but yeah, let me use this one. Okay, the priority of is 200. What attribute we want to be update? We want to be update assigned to, assigned and assigned to, right? Or application system owner owned by, let's take an example. So these attribute is available there and we want to be update. And if again we want to be put the condition, we can put operational status is operational. Let's save this. So what will happen? Basically that will be also there a use case like the running time of or running time of these particular schedule jobs might be different, right? So whenever it will run, it will update those attribute, and whenever it will run, it will update these particular attribute, right? And it will not mess up the data. It will only just reconcile the data, and we can see my CI is completely filling the attribute. And when or what in which picture scenario it will comes in the picture. If you remember, we discussed about the data model of the CMDB, right? Where we have collecting the information from customer. What is your required attribute? What is your mandatory attribute, right? Without you can say कि my CMDB is not completely populated, right? And if we want to achieve that particular requirement, couple of times we have to do integrations, or we have to update our CMDB with different data sources, right? So using that, we can reconcile the data and populate, and it's not for one or two, it can be to multiple. If we have different other data sources as well, we can create multiple reconciliation rules to update the data, and it's very easy. But we just need to ensure what will be the source of truth for those particular attribute. Okay, and SCCM is one of for Microsoft, or as I mentioned, Windows Server, Windows device. There is Intune as well, which is also one of the software which help to populate that Windows servers, Windows desktop, laptop, and iOS related data, iOS related component as well, which is MacBook or iPhone and all, right? Second is third is JAMF is there, which is only for iOS related OS, right? It's for MacBook, or it's for a monitor, it's for iPhone and all, right? Third is SolarWinds is there, which can also help to update our CMDB, which can discover or which can populate anything, right? Fifth is Red Hat, which is for Linux servers only. And there are lots of data sources available to populate our CMDB. If I go here and just to showcase you, oh, okay, I think we need to be enable that particular one. If I am enable the SCCM, yeah. So see, this is my service graph connector for SCCM. We just not in no need to do. We just need to be configure couple of database IP credentials, and after that we just need to schedule, and automatically data will be populated. So we'll discuss on that last session on it, okay, how SCCM will work or how we can configure it. Okay, so is that clear? Reconciliation rules.
Yes.
Okay, the same we have a data refresh rule. So data refresh rule is just to update the CI. So if it is specially mentioned here, specify when a CI turns stale for discovery source, allowing to the CI to be updated by lower priority authorized discovery source. Example, if we have a CI which is discovered by ServiceNow, 3 months ago or 1 year ago, example. Okay. And if we have configured the stale rule like that, if that is 1 year ago, that will showcase as a stale CI. Stale means which is not updating regularly, right? So it data refresh rules allow my different data source. The different data source can be my SCCM again, or Intune, or anything which have low priority, which can also update my existing CI to keep update my disk, that particular CI that can, let's take in a scenario here. So, there is a Windows server, which, or a Linux server, you are running a discovery. Okay, first time you run the discovery, discovered after, or daily, alternate days discovery schedule is running. That is working fine. But somehow after 2 months, what happened? The credentials is not working, or credential is locked for that particular CI, or, the firewall policies is disturbed by network team, and somehow your discovery schedule is running, and you are not able to update that particular existing CI, right? And no one is noticed that, because you think the discovery schedule is running automatically, or might be, that particular things will be taken care by the support team, right? If you anyone notice that, then definitely they can reach out to Windows team or network team to fix the issues, right? If it is not, right? And that CI available in the CMDB, last discovered is showing 1 year before, as well as the discovery source is service now, right? But, you know somehow, when we are in the next part, we are going to be discuss about the 3 C's of this discovery or CMDB. Then they realize that CI is not updating from last 1 year, and but you want to be, and it's due to some discovery, or, firewall policy or credential issues. In that case, you can use the any other data source which can update my CI, and that should not part of the stale CI. And meanwhile, you can also work with uh, Windows team or the network team to fix the issues, right? So let's take an example. If I'm going to create my discovery source will be, I can take that one which I use, this one. Effective duration, if the CI is in stale and not updating, how many days? Let's put 150 days. When will be effective time, if we want to be put that, and then save it. Right. So what it will do, it will update my existing CI, which is coming to discovered by Windows, or which is that high priority for Windows server is this ServiceNow discovery source. But if it is not updating, that will update from this particular data source.
After
Right.
150 days, right?
Sorry.
After 150 days.
Yes, 150 days.
Got it.
Right.
Yeah.
So because why it's required, in health, I'm just going to be on this particular part, will tell you service that our system owners, or our infra team, or our who are looking for the CMDB configuration manager, CMDB analyst, want to ensure that their CMDB is up to date and with the required or necessary attribute which we want to be checked, right? And that in that case, that should be required to be configured the data refresh rule.
Mhm.
Okay, let me showcase you one thing, and we'll move to that CMDB 3 CIs. Have you seen this particular dashboard ever?
Yes.
CMDB dashboard, right? So, have you heard about 3 C's?
Mm,
CMDB 3 C's.
yeah, these three, right? Completeness, compliance, and correctness.
Right. So basically, that infra team or the configuration manager, how they are evaluating the my CMDB is up to date. They are evaluating from this particular dashboard where completeness comes. Completeness, we have two things: recommended and required. Compliance, if my audit is there, audit matrix is correct, and correctness, we have duplicate, orphan, and stillness. Right, stillness is there now. You can see. Right. So we are calculating that particular, the my health CMDB health based on that particular dashboard. As well as we have also, again, as I mentioned, relationships, right? If duplicate relationships, orphan relationships, tail relationship is also there, right? and relationships not compliant with the all relationships rules, relationships not compliant with suggested relationships. Now you can see it's not showcasing any data because the health jobs, which is related to CMDB health jobs, scheduled jobs, is not triggered. It's everything is false now, right? It's only just taking the top task generating CI calculation, right? But now let's discuss about the 3C's and the CMDB dashboard. If I go to the CI class manager again, here first is completeness. In completeness, we have two things. One is required and one is recommended. Required means which is a mandatory field on that particular table. Example, on Windows Server, we have mandatory is asset tag or the serial number. Without that, it will not allow to create a record if we are going to be create a manual record here, right? So that are my mandatory. So here we no need to define any specific attribute, right? We just it will only calculate it automatically from the mandatory attribute specific to that particular class, right? And we can write that particular rules for complete hardware table. If we want to be go with particular classes as well, we can do that. But again, my suggestion is that overall the health rule will be overall right on the top of parent class or top of whatever you want to be use it, but not on the child classes. If you are going to be right this particular rule for Windows Server different, Linux server different, that will be little bit complicated. There is no challenge to do that, but that will be little bit complicated, right? Or might be your metrics will not be correct because whenever you are writing that particular health rules for different classes, you will do some different metrics you will use, right? So that will not recommend it. So that's why right on top of hardware table or whatever hardware table or parent table basically, or if you are writing on the child table or if you're writing on the parent table, health inclusion rules is also there where you can include whatever you want to be. And there is one more thing where you can also you know triggered on which class this will be, right? So if you want to be see like I just want to be triggered that particular health inclusion rules for a specific 10 classes only, you can also do that after writing on the parent table. That is also
Okay,
possible.
Ajay, I'm not sure I understand what that completeness is. What, like, it is evaluating, right, the health of the CMDB, correct, on these
Yeah.
three C's, correct?
Yes. Mhm.
I understand compliance and correctness, but what does it mean by required field and recommended field? What is it looking for when it looks at the data as a whole?
Okay. So let me give you an example. Let me take this Excel here. Let me see. Is anyone else showing today? No? No. Okay, no issues. Okay, so let's take an example. The data model of, I'm just giving an example of data model of Windows. Okay, I hope you're able to read it, right?
Yeah.
So there are field is serial number, okay, and asset tag, okay, name, OS, RAM, hard disk, CPU, CPU type, memory, okay, and assigned to OS on by example. These are that attribute on the Windows table. I'm just
Mm.
taking an example, right? While you are designing the data model with your stakeholders, you are defining that it's a mandatory. Yes, it's a mandatory. Yes, it it is asset tag is also mandatory. Yes, right. Name is also mandatory. Yes, RAM is not mandatory. No, it will be no. It will be no. And CPU type will no, 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 and yes, and no. Now you can see we have 4 attributes which is mandatory and others are not mandatory. But still, it doesn't mean ki if others are not mandatory, we no need to be update, right? Mandatory, if mandatory means that should be mandatory on the form. If I go here and if I go to CMDB CI Windows Server underscore list, let me showcase you one thing. Now I'm just going to create a new CI. Right, let me put test and let me save this. It's created, right? There is no mandatory attribute.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone comes and create that blank CI as well. Getting my
Mm-hmm.
point? But
Yes.
if I put mandatory, then without those 3 attribute or 4 attribute, no one can create a CI because what we required to identify a CI, at least we required a name, we required a serial number, right? We required a asset tag. So if the CI is created manually or any other data source, anywhere, right? Or on by, right? So we can easily identify that particular CI is belongs or owned by Ajay. The serial number is this. And if we want to populate other attribute, we can reach out to them. We can also, try to I add that particular IP in discovery schedule. So, or we can think about it how the other CI or other CI attribute will be populated in which ways. It can be, again, service graph connector or discovery or any integration, right? And definitely when we are doing that, discovery source is one of the field which is always available, right? Which we from where we can identify that is, that CI belongs to which discovery source, how it is created. If you see, that's the 10 CIs are service now. One is ACC visibility and another is our blank, which is manually created, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we want to little bit dig down here, let's go to created by or updated by, right? So whenever you see discovery sources service now created and updated by always or most of the time your mid server username.
Right.
Okay. And if in ACC it's again mid server username, but in this one where it's empty discovery source, that will be manually, means you able to identify user ID who created that particular record, right? But it doesn't means ki na, we can allow everyone come and create or any data source to create a CI in the CMDB without the complete or the necessary information. Getting my point? So example, if you're raising an incident, they are asking to description, your name, your email ID, or category. That is asking basic informations that asking, right? And then from the portal, and when you go to the native view of ServiceNow, there are lots of other things as well. Mine CI is there, priority is there, and other things, right? So that is the basic information when you are going to be design your data model. You need to ask. Without that, you should not allow to create a CI in the CMDB, right? And those are the mandatory attribute. Otherwise, that will not. So that is one thing. So
So when
here,
I'm looking at the dashboard for the
hmm,
completeness, it is basically telling you whatever percentage, whatever score comes up, it's telling you how many of the mandatory fields that are actually required fields are actually populated or not. Correct?
yes, exactly.
Okay.
On based on the CI count, not for specific attributes.
Okay.
Right. So I will tell you about how it will, it looks like basically once we have configured this one, I'm going to be configure and running the schedule job. So you will see it, right? So that's why it's not asking to, put any, attribute here. It will automatically calculate it based on your mandatory attributes.
Okay.
Okay.
And similarly, what about recommended fields?
Now recommended, right? Again, your mandatory attributes, it will check and calculate those things, right? But now you want to be ensure at least my CMDB health looks good to me. So the other attribute, now I can say, let's take an example of Windows Server. Let me go here and just to open one record here. Now you can see its OS version is there. Example, OS pack is there. Does is this going to be impact anything if it is not discovered by ServiceNow or not populated by any data source?
No.
No, right? DNS domain, if it is not discovered or populated by, yes, because you want to be ensure how many CIs belongs to which domain, right?
Mm-hmm.
OS domain is also, if disk space is not populated here, it will also going to be impact, right? Because you are not able to ensure or how, when what type of CIs we have and how much disk space they are using, right? Chassis type, if it is not impact, it is not going to be discovered. It's not going to be impact anything, right? The same way RAM, CPU manufacturer. So apart from when we are designing the form design or when we are creating data model, we need to be also ensure while we are configuring the recommended, which is the most important attribute. Without that, you cannot say कि my CMDB is healthy,
Okay.
right? So it might be, if I not go with that, if I simple say, if assigned to is not there because that is not not discovered from discovery. Right. If I leave the discovery attribute, that will somehow will be populated, but assigned to will not be populated from discovery. And customer want assigned to should be populated anyway. Might be it's coming from any data source, or you want to do manually, or you want to do, integration with LeanIX or something, whatever. But I want every CI assigned to will be there or on by will be there, because whenever any incident raised for any CI, I can reach out to that particular person or on by person or support group to find out ki that is the issue, and we can work with them. Otherwise, my incident process and other things will be delayed.
Okay.
Right? So those attribute, whatever customer says ki that is recommended for to make sure my CMDB is healthy, that attribute we are selecting here
And that is something that you will get information when
from
you have
customer.
requirements gathering from the customer.
Right, exactly, exactly. If that will not happen on the first session or the starting of that, when you are going to be implement, you can also ask later to customer to have a discussion with them, or based on your understanding as well what customer, because when you are doing requirement gathering or data modeling, you can also understand what customer is looking for, because you are going to do workshop session with them and showcasing ki, sir, that is going to be discovered manually, that is not. And while you are discussing with them, you can realize that ki, that is the attribute which customer is looking for. Without that, we cannot proceed further, right? You can also configure that based on your understanding, or you can directly, go to customer and ask, sir, we have to be make sure your CMDB is healthy. So required attribute automatically going to be calculate. But what is your recommended attribute you are going to be tell me, like, what you want to be populate somehow, so we can ensure your CMDB or, CIs will be healthy and showcasing correctly.
Right. And you will
Right?
demo this, right? The required fields.
Right, right. I'm going to do it. That's why I'm just saving this one as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just selecting those four attributes because that I'm very sure these attributes are not populated on any record. Right here, if as I mentioned, it's showcasing lower is 33, upper is 67, and above that 67, we can say that is green. So we can also, modify that one if we want to be like what how we will look like our scorecard as well, right? It's out of box 33 and 37, means below 33 it is in red, and below 30, between 33 to 67, it will be, medium, or we can say amber one will showcasing there. And above 30 67, it's showcasing it's green. But customer wants to be, it will be showcased green after 95. We can modify that as well.
It will show green what? Can you repeat that?
No, 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 we have just configured this one. Now let me run that job just to showcase you one moment. It's completeness one, right? Oh, it's completeness one if I'm not wrong, right?
Completeness.
So it's here. So again, as I mentioned, schedule jobs we can configure. Okay, and we can also schedule this one. I'm just going to be execute now.
Mm-hmm.
That will take couple of minutes. If I go back here and let me refresh this one. See, now it's showcasing 98%, but let me refresh this one because it will take, some couple of minutes. Now you can see
So
what I
what
mentioned
does
to
that
you.
mean? That means 98% of the records in the CMDB have the required fields populated.
Yes, now you can see in the CMDB we have 355 records. Let me
Uh-huh.
open. We can validate this one as well, and we should validate,
Right.
right? Because we have not added any filter. But how many records we have it, first of all?
3554. Okay.
Because why it's going to be 3554? In we are configuring on Windows Server, but we have not put it any, specific class that will run on those particular classes. Okay, so it will capturing the all CMDB table for now. Okay, so first of all, we have 355 class, 3554. Here, if I go here, recommended is 180. On 180 records, that is my what I'm trying to say, that whatever I configured, that is not there. So let me go
Correct.
here and just me showcase you. If I go to little bit inside of
Any
it,
any one of those four that you configured, right?
right, if I go to inside of it, might be it will take couple of more minutes to be updated properly, but yeah, all that is in CMDB CI Windows Server. If I open this, you can see this is my recommended metric CMDB health, right? If I open this record, see, so following at recommended fields are not populated on support group, on by, assigned to, or assigned to on this particular CI.
Got it. So
And
every
this is my
CI,
recommended metrics.
yeah, every CI it will show you which one is not populated.
Right. So this is on 180. Up
One.
now, let me go to my Windows Server table. How many records we have it? 180.
Hmm.
On any of the CI, if I go here and showcase you assigned to, assigned, and on by, and I think support group, right?
Hmm.
See, so all are empty,
Correct.
right? So it will calculate and showcase these things to me. These are the CI where that is missing. And
Hmm.
if I see for required attribute, if I go here, this is on that table. Because as I mentioned, there is okay, CloudNet. I open this one. Yeah, the source IP and the target IP following required fields are not populated. Now, let me open this table. As I mentioned, that will be on mandatory attributes. If I open this, if I create new one, example, source IP and target IP are mandatory here.
Mm-hmm.
If it is that not populated, it's not populated for the existing record, which is already there. Let me open this. Shit. Let me open in different way. Yeah. See. Why it's opening that rule. It's in that table. One.
Oh, it's the translation rule table. It's not the actual CI.
It's not a CMDB. It's a CMDB CI translation rules. But yeah, basically, if I'm going to be create a record here, if I'm going to be create a source and target is mandatory, and this is the only table where out of the box example, if I say these fields are mandatory to required to create a record, right? If it is not filled, definitely it will showcase that required attribute is missing on that particular table,
Correct.
like, right? So
Right.
that we required to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, my CMDB health will be showcased. It's not correct.
Correct.
right? So this is the first thing. Second things comes in the picture is CMDB compliance scoreboard. What is compliance? What do you understand by the compliance?
Mm,
Which
okay.
is something not
Following some
compliant.
rules, following
Mhm.
some.
Following some rules or following some policy by our organization. Let's
Correct.
take an example. Let's take an example. You're running an organization and they have compliance कि all Windows machine in their environment should be running on Windows OS 2016. That is one compliance. Okay. Second is all Windows machines should have antivirus installed on it. Antivirus is any name or any version specific, right? Or might be they are ensuring that XYZ software should be installed on all Windows machine, be it any Windows server or any computer or any laptop or any desktop, right? So we can configure that as well to ensure कि our all CI is compliant with that particular requirement, which is compliance by compliant team, right? So first of all, what we have to do, we have to create a certification filter. So let's create a certification filter. I'm just putting a name test. I'm just not giving any table is Windows Server. Again, we can select the different serve tables as well. It's and let me add one filter condition. Operational status of operational. Okay. So that is my filter condition, first of all, to filter out that particular machine. Okay. Now we need to be configure the certificate template, certification template. Let's configure this one. Okay. Let's me do that test. We need to be select the filter. I just created text. Okay. Desired state, architecture compliance and compliance. Let's put desired state out of the box. Okay, what condition? Certificates and attribute condition. If I just want to be put, right, like I'm just putting support group is not XYZ. No, I think let me take an good scenario basically. Mm, let's take on by is not empty. Okay, that is my certification attribute condition. CI relationship condition, user relationships, certification group relationships. If I just want to be populate this one, let's leave this and let me okay filter. I've just selected is this. Okay, let me submit this. Okay, now we need to be put audit. Create new name is text. Template we have to be select here. It's test one. Okay, when that audit will work basically, right? Or do we need to create a task for compliance task? So if any CI is compliant, automatically task will be created and assigned to be that particular team if you want, right? When it will run daily, weekly, or whatever time. It will run on daily 7:58. Okay, days, health windows units, threshold count, stability count, or any short description. Let me save this. So it will run on daily, 7:58 a.m. Audit scorecard. Again, it's out of the box, same. Let me go on my CMDB.
So what is it looking for though? You created that certification filter, you created the template, so the template is using the filter. Then you
I'm using for on by is not empty for now.
oh.
Okay, so I just put it one condition there, right?
Mm.
So I'm because I need to look for something. fancy or something, actual use case, I will look in tomorrow and I will showcase you that as well. But just for now, I just looking for on buy is not empty as a compliance, because on buy should be there for me.
So how is this different from completeness, the compliance?
So compliance basically, because I used on buy, okay. I used on buy just for testing, but it will run basically on those things, or those, which is mentioned or raised by your compliance team,
Got it. Okay.
right? It's recommended and required fields is related to your CMDB manager or your system owners or those particular pupils,
Right. Right.
right? But that is for compliance team mostly. So I think it's updating, but it's showcasing 5%, and see, it's updated and it's showcasing 5%, and it is in red now. Now let's see, because it's not the correct data, I'm definitely sure, but because I just choose only the on buy, and you can see there are these 5 CIs. Let me open this one, right? So we have 34 CIs is there, which is belongs to service table. If I open this one, right, on buy is where on buy is there, but it's not empty. Okay, I just put it not empty, my bad. Shit.
I should have said empty, right?
Yes, right. So
Hmm.
that's why it's capturing those particular records where it's on by is not empty. And
Right.
that's why it's showcasing 61 record here. So
Right.
only the 61 records we have on by is not empty. And it just give me a clear picture now. We have 61 records where that is the value.
Right.
Right. So that is showcasing like that. So definitely, I think tomorrow we're going to be discuss about the other, you know, correctness as well, and we'll discuss about the health inclusion rules as well, how we can configure that, how we can modify that, on which class or which table that should apply, right? So
Yeah.
we'll go with that particular things.
Okay.
So, and there are a couple of other things, a couple of other modules as well in the CMDB. If I put configuration management, if you remember, if you heard about configuration, there is one recently CMDB workspace is there, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
I will go through that as well. This is all about conf workspace. Okay, I will let me check, and we'll going to be discuss about the CMDB workspace, how that will be helpful for that, because whatever we are doing here individually, identification rules, CMDB, 3C's and other things, attestation task, or compliance task or deduplication task, that is all merged and populated on CMDB workspace.
Okay.
That is the CMDB workspace basically. Right, nothing different, but just to how we can use that one. Yeah, I think that is there.
Okay.
Let me showcase you right away. Whatever you are populating here, that particular values, that is also available here. Let me showcase you, and we'll discuss about that as well tomorrow. So if you see important actions, CMDB, open task, overdue task, nothing is there. How many count of the CIS 3.6? If you want to open any dependency map, query builder, anything, you can see summary of the CIS is, you can see CMDB 360. It will give you the complete view of, okay, that is not enabled. Okay, my work, right? If we have any task related to anything, certification task, attestation task, or this is that one which we have just done, right? Attestation task or all other tasks related to deduplication and other things, we can also see here. If we want to do management, rejected CI, excluded CI, if we want to, everything will be there.
Right.
Right, so we'll discuss on that a little bit deep tomorrow.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, any other questions,
No.
Radhi?
No, I'm good.
Okay, sure. I think then thank you so much for
Thank you.
joining, and let's connect tomorrow at the same
Yeah.
time.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, good day. Bye bye.
Bye.